1. They died over. A peach. One day, Lord Luo Chu and the high official Shu Sun Ruo visited Lord Qi Jing Gong, who hosted a feast in their honor. The three heroes, renowned warriors Kong Tan Tiep, Gu Jiazi, and Dian Kai Ku, stood by the stairs, swords in hand, exuding arrogance. These men were known for their strength and significant contributions, often behaving haughtily towards other officials. They formed a coalition, including some powerful figures in the court with ill intentions, and Ying had long wanted to eliminate them but hadn't found the opportunity. Seizing the moment, and Ying suggested, "Now that the golden peaches in the garden are ripe, may I propose that we pick them to celebrate the longevity of the two kings?" The king sent people to pick the peaches under An Ying's supervision. Shortly, An Ying presented the peaches, saying, "This variety is called Eternal Gold Peach, also known as the Bàng peach. It originates from beyond the sea mountain, has been cultivated for 30 years, has flowered but never fruited until this year's first harvest. Out of the entire tree, only 6 of the 9 fruits are ripe, and I have picked them." And Ying offered wine and a peach to Lord Luo Chu, followed by offering one to Qi Jing Gong. Jing Gong then gave Shu Sun Ruo and An Ying each a peach. Everyone who tasted the peaches found them exceptionally sweet and refreshing. And Ying then addressed the officials. "By the Lord's order, any official who believes they have made significant contributions may step forward to receive a peach." Warrior Kong Tan Teep claimed, "Once, the Lord was attacked by a fierce tiger during a hunt, and I bravely killed it, saving the Lord. How is that for a contribution?" And Ying praised his deed as sky-high in value and deserving of a peach, which he then gave to Tiep. Gu Jiazi claimed his deed of killing a monstrous crocodile that threatened the Lord's boat on the Yellow River was the greatest feat of all, to which Qi Jing Gong agreed, deserving of wine and a peach. With the peaches gone, Dian Kai Ku stepped forward, claiming his conquests in war deserved recognition. And Ying regretfully informed him that the peaches were all gone, but offered wine instead, suggesting he wait until the next year. Kai Ku, feeling humiliated in front of the kings and unable to bear the shame, took his own life. Shocked, Kong Tan Teep declared his deed insignificant compared to dying for honor and followed in suicide. Gu Jiazi, lamenting the death of his sworn brothers, also took his own life. Commentary. The warriors often saw themselves as great heroes, craving fame and looking down on others. Among them, Dian Kai Ku's deeds were more for the people and the country, making him more of a true general than the others. His later speech and resulting death from wounded pride led to a tragic end. The remaining warriors, feeling genuine shame, followed in suicide. This was An Ying's strategy to eliminate them discreetly. If An Ying had not intended their deaths, he could have split the peach or shared the wine, preventing the tragedy. The three heroes, proud of their feats and strength, were in league with deceitful individuals like Luong Kao Ku and Tran Vo Vu, who were cunning but not as malevolent as the officials above. Yet, allowing them to live longer would have been detrimental to the court, and Ying's method was subtly effective, leaving no room for blame. 2. The principle of impartial justice. In the state of Jin, upon hearing of the death of the 3 excellencies of Qi, both Jin and Yan launched deep invasions into Qi territory, leading to several crushing defeats for Qi. Previously, An Ying had frequently recommended the wise and talented Tian Nongshu to the king, but King Jing had ignored these recommendations. It was only when the nation faced imminent danger that King Jing, out of fear, sent An Ying with gifts to Donghai to invite Tian Nongshu to court. Tian Nongshu lectured King Jing on military strategy, earning his deep respect and an appointment as the Grand Marshal, in charge of the army to repel the invaders. Tian Nongshu said, "I come from humble beginnings, and now my lord entrusts me with military command, a position above high officials. I fear people may not accept this. Please appoint someone respected throughout the nation as the supervisor of the army, so my orders will be followed." King Jing appointed the senior official Zhang Jia as the army supervisor. Tian Nongshu instructed Zhang Jia to plant a wooden pole the next day at noon to measure time. Zhang Jia arrived late and Tian Nongshu broke the pole, stepping onto the platform to issue orders. When Zhang Jia arrived disheveled in the evening, Tian Nongshu asked, "Why are you late?" Zhang Jia, confident in the king's favor, arrogantly replied, "I was delayed by a farewell party." Tian Nongshu responded, "A general, once receiving the king's command, must forget his home and self in battle. Now, with the enemy invading and the lord anxious, you prioritize wine over duty." Despite Zhang Jia's self-assurance, Tian Nongshu inquired about the penalty for a late general. The military judge pronounced, "Death." Tian Nongshu ordered Zhang Jia to be tied up and executed at the military gate, shocking the troops. Zhang Jia's allies urgently reported this to King Jing, who, in fear, sent Luang Kao Ku with a token pleading for Zhang Jia's life. But by the time Ku arrived, Zhang Jia was already executed. When asked about the crime of rushing into the military gate, the judge again prescribed death. Tian Nongshu stated, "Death is warranted, but since Luang Daifu bears the king's token, I'll spare his life." He then ordered the beheading of the horse and destruction of the chariot, turning the generals pale. Tian Nongshu led a successful campaign, with Jin and Yan retreating and eventually seeking peace. Commentary. Tian Nongshu epitomizes the ideal general, while Zhang Jia represents those who abuse their position of power. In times of war and chaos, those born into privilege obstruct the dedicated efforts of those serving the nation. Since the dawn of governance, ideals such as justice without bias, fairness and integrity, and sacrifice for the nation have existed. The army was ready to march, yet had to wait for someone delayed by drinking, illustrating the importance of strict military discipline. Even in the case of Sun Wu training female soldiers in Wu, or Han Xin executing a close ally for disobeying military law, it demonstrates that only when nepotism and factionalism are eradicated can laws be revered, leading to a truly strong and progressive nation. Tian Nongshu, as such a general, left behind the Tiannong military strategy, one of the 7 valuable military texts of China. 3. Harming others. Without cause is essentially harming oneself. In the ancient state of So, a man named Phai Vo Kuk once harmed various individuals including Len Don Dao Than Nien, the family of Prince Quyên, and the family of Wu Xia, father of Wu Zixi. His malice later turned towards the family of Ba Kwak Uyen, a renowned figure of kindness in So. Phai Vo Kuk, driven by spite, conspired with Yen Tuong Su to falsely accuse Ba Kwak Uyen of plotting the murder of the official Len Duan Nang Ngoa. Nang Ngoa, lacking wisdom, ordered an investigation into Ba Kwak Uyen's home. They found military gear displayed inside and a lavish feast outside, supposedly to honor Nang Ngoa upon Phi Vo Kuk's suggestion. Enraged, Nang Ngoa led troops to besiege Ba Kwak Uyen's home. Realizing he had fallen for Phi Vo Kuk's vile scheme, Ba Kwak Uyen took his own life. Nang Ngoa then commanded the people to set fire to Ba Kwak Uyen's residence. Despite their reluctance, they complied under threat, resulting in the murder of Ba Kwak Uyen's entire household. Phai Vo Kuk felt vindicated, yet he was haunted by a song mourning Ba Kwak Uyen's unjust death and condemning Nangoa's heartlessness. This spurred Nangoa to investigate further, leading to widespread veneration of Ba Kwak Uyen and condemnation of Phi Vo Kuk and Yun Tuong Su. Fearing retribution, Nangoa sought the help of Tom Duan Thu to eliminate these two villains. The public rallied, capturing and executing them, and destroying their households, satisfying the collective desire for justice. Commentary. A person's long-term indulgence can become a malady. Numerous peculiar afflictions exist, and Phi Vo Kuk seemed to suffer from a compulsion to harm the virtuous. Over 2 decades and so, he targeted countless righteous individuals, regardless of distance or absence of grievances. This inexplicable behavior suggests a pathological condition rather than rational motive. Over time, Phi Vo Kuk's addiction to causing harm grew, targeting individuals like Dao Than Thien and Wu Xia without provocation. To the people, Phi Vo Kuk represented death itself, necessitating collective action to eliminate this menace. By the end of the Warring States period, others in so exhibited similar pathological tendencies. Such individuals rarely meet ordinary ends, appearing throughout history. In essence, those with malicious intents often create the conditions for their own tragic demise. In modern times, human progress and strict legal systems have significantly reduced such inhumane acts. 4. A Queen of Honor and a Queen of Dishonor. King Wu of Yue conquered the state of Chu. King Zhao of Chu, the youngest son of King Ping of Chu, and his officials fled without being able to take the Dowager Queen and the Queen with them, the Dowager Queen being King Zhao's mother, thus the wife of King Ping, the Queen being King Zhao's wife. King Wu's men captured Queen Zhao. King Wu demanded her to serve him. That night, King Wu spent the night in the palace with Queen Zhao. The next day, someone told King Wu, Lady Ba Doan was supposed to be the wife of Prince Jian, but King Ping of Chu, in an act of immorality, took her for himself upon seeing her surpassing beauty, making her blush the moon and shame the flowers. Ba Doan thus is the Dowager Queen of Chu. Her beauty remains captivating. King Wu, greatly pleased, sent for her. Lady Ba Doan refused to come out. King Wu then sent men to fetch her. Ba Doan kept her doors shut and, holding a sword, said, I hear that a king is supposed to be a model for his country. Now, by acting immorally, this individual would rather die than follow such a despicable ruler. Ashamed, King Wu apologized and strictly forbade all indecency at the royal court. Commentary. With King Wu of Yue's victory over Chu, King Zhao was forced into exile. The people of Chu were in turmoil. Chu now lay in a state of chaos and bloodshed. The power of life and death now rested in the hands of the rulers of Yue. The night before, King Wu made Queen Zhao serve him, a polite way of saying he took her. Presumably, Queen Zhao dared not resist. Daring not to resist equates to not resisting, meaning consent. Queen Zhao had dishonored herself. The following night, King Wu again sent for Ba Doan. She did not come and instead cursed King Wu for being a despicable ruler. She was ready to die to maintain her honor. Facing such steadfastness, King Wu repented. Previously, Ba Doan had been taken by force by her father-in-law, surely knowing this and suffering greatly. If one has any compassion or values honor, one should not inflict further pain upon her. This commentary is by author Ngo Nguyen Phi in the work Studies on the Spring and Autumn and Warring States Period. A king facing 2 queens of a conquered nation, one consenting and the other resisting, must understand that the consenting one represents the loss of the nation, while the resisting one is the soul of the country. The existence of a nation lies in those who maintain their honor. A victor who respects the dignity of the vanquished achieves a complete victory. 5. Confucius and the Peace Conference at JIAGU between Lu and Qi. King Jing of Qi sent an invitation to Duke Ding of Lu for a peace conference at JIAGU. Duke Ding chose Confucius as his representative for the meeting. Confucius stated, "Where there are diplomatic talks, there must also be a show of military strength. One cannot go without the other. Please, Your Grace, send the Sima military commander with troops as support." A crafty Qi official, Lei Di, suggested to King Jing, "At the opening of the conference tomorrow, have the Dongyi band perform with 300 Dongyi soldiers disguised as musicians to capture the Lu dignitaries. Meanwhile, I'll lead our troops to fend off the Lu forces outside the ceremonial site." King Jing agreed, keeping this plan secret from Yan Ying, his envoy. On the day of the peace conference, the rulers of Qi and Lu, along with their envoys Yan Ying and Confucius, met and exchanged formal greetings. When the Dongyi band was ordered to perform, their sudden display of weapons alarmed Duke Ding of Lu. Confucius stepped forward and criticized the choice of such barbaric entertainment at a diplomatic event meant to foster goodwill, suggesting instead the use of proper Chinese ceremonial music. Yan Ying, unaware of Lei Di's plot, agreed with Confucius, prompting King Jing to withdraw the Dongyi performers. Angered, Lei Di then instructed the Qi musicians to perform a vulgar song known as "Despicable Dog" during the feast, aiming to insult the guests. Confucius, observing the inappropriate behavior, called on the Sima of Lu to discipline the offenders. King Jing, embarrassed, did nothing, allowing the situation to escalate. Eventually, Confucius signaled to the Lu Sima to seize the lead musicians, leading to their execution and the dispersal of the band in fear. Confucius remarked, "Since our nations are now in harmony, the Sima of Lu should be regarded as akin to the Sima of Qi." The Lu delegation then departed. Yan Ying advised King Jing that Qi had been disrespectful to Lu and should sincerely apologize by returning the Wanyang fields to Lu. King Jing agreed. Reflections. This story highlights several key points. Confucius's assertion that civil and military aspects must go hand in hand reflects the ancient wisdom that strength must precede negotiation for peace, talks to be taken seriously. If the parties are not equally matched, any peace treaty would be inherently unfair. The role of music in diplomacy, already recognized in Chinese culture for 2 millennia, is acknowledged worldwide today as part of international protocol. The tale also illustrates the folly of King Jing's reliance on Lei Di's malicious advice, turning what should have been a dignified event into a farce, to the embarrassment of both nations. Lastly, the reference to the song "Despicable Dog," a folk song known in both Qi and Lu, reveals the scandalous behavior of Tai Wen-kwang and her brother, serving as a reminder of the importance of virtuous leadership and wise counsel in governance. 6. Ancient methods of bribery and acceptance of bribes. King Ngo Fu Sai led his troops to attack the state of Viet in a quest for vengeance for the defeat inflicted by King Hap Lu. Faced with defeat, the Viet king Cao Tien was driven to despair and contemplated suicide. His advisor, Van Chung, suggested seeking peace. With no other options, Cao Tien reluctantly sent Van Chung to negotiate with the Ngo camp. Upon arrival, Van Chung humbly presented their case. Moved by the plea, Ngo Fu Sai was inclined towards peace, but his prime minister Ngu Tu Tu protested, claiming refusal was against divine will. Van Chung was sent away. Furious at the news, Cao Tien was ready to sacrifice everything in a final battle. Van Chung intervened, proposing to exploit Ba Phai's known greed and lust by offering gifts and beauties. Selected beauties and treasures were sent to Ba Phai's palace. Despite Ba Phai's initial outrage at the modest offerings, Van Chung boldly claimed Viet's determination to fight to the last, suggesting their acceptance might spare Ngo the trouble of a lengthy war and ensure possession of valuable spoils. Ba Phai, recognizing the opportunity to help and perhaps swayed by the gifts, agreed to mediate peace with King Ngo Fu Sai. Commentary. Ba Phai, son of Ba Quoc Uyen, who fled to Ngo after being targeted by slander from Phai Vo Cuc, and subsequently rose to power under Ngo's king, mirrored Vo Cuc's cunning and greed. Before allowing Van Chung's audience, Ba Phai's assessment of the gifts and his subsequent threats highlight the art of extortion practiced by seasoned bureaucrats. Van Chung's firm stance showcased a deep understanding of negotiating with corrupt officials. Despite Ba Phai's acceptance of the bribes, driven by the prospect of enriching himself in the event of Ngo's victory, his actions underscore the manipulation and deceit inherent in professional bribery. Ultimately, those engaged in such corruption often forget that wealth acquired through deceit offers no comfort in death. Ba Phai's acceptance forced him to support Viet, plotting against Ngu Tutu and loyalists. However, after 7 years, Cao Tian defeated Ngo, leading to Fu Sai's suicide and the eradication of Ba Phai's lineage, highlighting the transient nature of power and the downfall of the corrupt. 7. The loyalty of the court in a defeated kingdom. Before King Viet Vuong Cao Tian and his queen bid farewell to their court to become hostages in Ngo, Cao Tian wept before his officials, saying, "Circumstances force us to go to Ngo, and I must entrust the nation to you, hoping you will not betray my trust." Pham Lai stated, "In internal governance, I am not as skilled as Van Chung, but in the throes of battle and external affairs, Van Chung cannot match me. I wish to accompany our Lord." Van Chung said, "General Phom's words are wise. I shall stay and diligently tend to our nation's affairs." The Minister of Agriculture, Ko Han, added, "Promulgating royal decrees to exemplify the king's virtue and maintain public order is my duty." The military strategist Jia Kedin declared, "Recruiting new soldiers, training the troops, and disciplining the army is my responsibility." The Minister of Agriculture, Shaun Hu, committed to teaching the people to farm and conserve resources is my task. And Kane Gay, the royal advisor, affirmed, "I will take on astronomy, geography, and the expansion of our culture." Moved, Cao Tian expressed his comfort, "Now, I can leave with peace of mind." The king bid farewell at Ko Lung. Editorial note. This farewell was profoundly sorrowful. Interestingly, in modern-day Vietnam there is no king, nor are there Ngo occupying forces. It is often said, "A country cannot be without a king for a day." Yet for 3 years Vietnam remained without a monarch, a remarkably tranquil period. The Vietnamese people lived peacefully under the careful administration of their officials. To achieve such harmony, the officials must have worked together lovingly and built upon the belief that they were guided by a supremely benevolent king who cared for the people. In a kingdom without a king, the officials divided the responsibilities to govern the people, educate them, and maintain social order. Military readiness, economic management, education, and law were not neglected. Everyone lived in trust, looking forward to a grand preparation for the future. History has rarely seen a nation in such a unique situation where there was no king, yet there was no chaos. In the historical records of Sima Qian, a chapter is dedicated to Cao Tian, the era of Viet Cao Tian. 8. The Grand Preparation, or The Art of Political Warfare by GOUJIAN. GOUJIAN, having spent 3 years in Yue with the support of the wise and talented Fan Li, and having endured countless hardships as a prisoner, was finally released by the king of Yue. Upon his return to Quyji, he was warmly welcomed by hundreds of officials, and there was a mix of joy and sorrow among them. Ashamed of his previous defeat and disgrace, GOUJIAN resolved to reform his country and avenge the loss of his kingdom. With Fan Li's assistance, he fortified the city of Quyji, making it strong and expansive, covering over 50 miles, even enclosing Quyji Mountain within its walls. The northeast side of the city was left open, misleadingly suggesting it was an access route for tribute. GOUJIAN initiated reforms including recruiting new soldiers, training the army, caring for the elderly, educating the youth, and aiding the poor, bringing happiness and peace to his people. Fearful of forgetting his resentment towards Yue, he hung a gallbladder by his seat, tasting its bitterness from time to remember his vendetta. He personally drafted a marriage law that imposed strict rules on age and responsibilities within marriage and ensured that officials were informed of imminent births for proper care. The law also stipulated that families could only keep 1 out of 3 children, with the rest being cared for by the state. The king engaged in the lives of his people, attending funerals personally, providing for the needy, and even farming alongside his subjects to set an example of frugality and hard work. He also waived taxes for 7 years and maintained diplomatic relations with Yue by offering gifts. Upon hearing of King GOUJIAN's sincerity, the king of Yue granted him more territory, expanding his kingdom by over 800 miles. Meanwhile, strategies were laid out by Wenzhong to weaken Yue through 7 tactics, including economic drain, scarcity of resources, exploiting internal corruption, and military preparation. GOUJIAN ordered the search for 2 exceptional trees, known as divine trees, for a grand gesture towards Yue, which were joyously received by the king of Yue and used to construct a magnificent palace. This move, among others, was part of a long-term strategy to ultimately overpower and defeat Yue, leading GOUJIAN's kingdom to prominence and earning him a significant place in the assembly of the Chu court. Commentary. This passage illustrates the relentless efforts of a king who had experienced defeat and loss, but managed to rebuild his nation through internal reforms, strategic warfare, and personal sacrifice. By drafting new marriage laws aimed at increasing the population for a stronger workforce and potential army, and by leading by example in labor and austerity, he strengthened his kingdom. The strategic plan developed by Wenzhong aimed at enriching the kingdom while simultaneously weakening the enemy, demonstrating a blend of cunning and resourcefulness. Despite employing any means necessary, his ultimate goal was to elevate his nation to a great power status. What this narrative emphasizes is the king's view of himself not as a supreme ruler but as an ordinary citizen, participating in daily labor and frugal living without the trappings of royalty. GOUJIAN's story is a vivid, heroic, and poignant chapter in China's history over the past 25 centuries, showcasing his exemplary leadership and the profound impact of his reign. 9. Internal and external concerns. The Tran family in the state of Qi desired to seize control of other lands but hesitated due to the strength of the Cao, Quoc, and Tan families. Tran Hong, after devising a strategy, reported to King Jian of Qi, "The state of Lu, with the support of Wu, has humiliated us. The time has come for revenge." King Jian, persuaded, appointed Quoc Thu as the general, with Chao Vo Bin and Tan Lao as his deputies, and launched a significant military campaign to the borders of Lu. At that time, Confucius was in Lu, organizing the classic books of poetry and documents. Upon hearing of Qin's invasion, he lamented, "Lu is my homeland. It must be saved." He then inquired if any student would deter Qin's forces from attacking Lu. Despite offers from 2 disciples, Confucius declined, only agreeing when ZHANG volunteered. ZHANG traveled to Ban Thuy to meet with TRAN, who, recognizing ZHANG as a distinguished disciple of Confucius, welcomed him and inquired if he was there to negotiate on behalf of Lu. ZHANG replied, "I am here for Qi, not Lu. Why attack Lu, a challenging target?" Questioned about Lu's defenses, ZHANG described them as weak but argued that Wu, with its stronger fortifications and forces, was an easier target. TRAN, perplexed by the inversion of difficulty, allowed ZHANG a private audience to explain. ZHANG outlined that the general's military action against Lu was driven by internal politics rather than external threats, suggesting that attacking a stronger state like Wu would consolidate his power internally. Enlightened, TRAN pondered how to shift the campaign towards Wu. ZHANG proposed inciting Wu to attack Qi, providing a pretext for Qi to retaliate. ZHANG then persuaded Wu's king by highlighting Qi's aggression towards both Wu and Lu, suggesting a preemptive strike against Qi to aid Lu and secure Wu's dominance. The king, wary of a potential attack from the weaker state of Viet, was convinced by ZHANG's argument that prioritizing Qi over Viet demonstrated true wisdom and courage. Consequently, Wu, with additional forces from Tian, triumphed over Qi at Nai Lang. Discussion. This section highlights ZHANG's eloquence and strategic thinking, influenced by his teacher, Confucius of Lu, in saving Lu from Qi's invasion without resorting to violence. ZHANG understood TRAN's desire to eliminate rival families through foreign intervention, arguing that attacking Lu was strategically unsound. However, ZHANG's suggestion to focus on internal politics, attacking a strong state, rather than external threats, attacking a weak state, raises questions about his consistency, as Wu's situation seemed more about external ambition. The narrative critiques the cruelty of the era, with ZHANG setting 2 tyrannical states against each other to prevent them from overpowering smaller states. 10. The people of the kingdom made their mark on the boat, searching for the sword beneath the river. A man from the state of Chu was sailing down the river, passing through stunningly beautiful landscapes that he seemed to greatly enjoy. People might have mistaken him for a connoisseur of scenic views. He laughed and talked non-stop. Whether in deep or shallow parts of the river, he would jump around or wave his arms and legs until suddenly his sword, which was strapped to his side, fell into the water. He wanted to dive in after it, but the river was too deep and he dared not. Instead, he borrowed a sword from someone nearby, made a mark on the boat's gunwale, and carved the words, "Sword fell here." When the boat reached its destination, the man from Chu jumped into the river from the marked spot to search for his fallen sword. "Oh, man from Chu, don't you know that while the boat moves, the sword does not?" Commentary. The sword fell into the river, and even though the positions of those on the boat did not change, the sword did not travel with the boat. The man from Chu failed to realize this. The sword dropped upstream, yet he searched for it downstream. Does anyone today resemble him, I wonder? 11. The Marriage of River God. Envoy Nguyen Van Hao appointed Tay Mon Bao as the prefect to govern Ngiep district. Upon arrival, he observed a desolate and sparse population, with the people appearing frightened and scattered. When Tay Mon Bao inquired, he learned from the locals, "Our suffering is due to the river god's demand for a bride." Surprised, he asked, The river god demands a bride? They explained that the river god, spirit of this river, desired beautiful wives. Annually, he required the offering of a beautiful maiden to ensure favorable weather. Failure to comply would result in floods and destruction. Taimon Bao questioned who initiated this practice. He was told it was the work of the local shamans and elders. The villagers feared the river god's wrath, leading to floods. The shamans, elders, and village leaders exploited this fear, demanding significant sums for the river god's bride. Each year, they would select a maiden deemed worthy of the river god. Families unable to pay were forced to offer their daughters, who were then dressed beautifully and sent out on a reed boat, never to be seen again. Many impoverished families fled, causing the population to dwindle further. Taimon Bao declared, "On the day the river god takes a bride, inform me, and we shall pray together." On the chosen day, he wore official robes to the riverbank where he saw village leaders, shamans, elders, and a large crowd gathered. A shaman, arrogantly leading about 20 disciples in extravagant attire, was brought forward. Taimon Bao told her, "If the river god is truly benevolent, he deserves a beautiful bride. This girl is not suitable. Tell the river god that, following the prefect's order, another maiden will be offered later." He then ordered his soldiers to throw the shaman into the river and waited. After a long wait with no response, he had 2 disciples jump into the river, followed by 2 more, all in an effort to provoke a reply. Finally, he told the elders, "Your turn for clarity." When they hesitated, they too were pushed into the water. This struck fear into everyone, but Taimon Bao stood respectfully, waiting for an answer that never came. Taimon Bao announced, "With the shaman gone, anyone speaking of the river god demanding brides will be punished. Village leaders must repay the people." This ended the shaman's deceit in Nyep district. Commentary. The practice of shamanism, a form of superstition from ancient times, persists clandestinely in some Vietnamese regions even today. While not entirely devoid of merit, it does not benefit humanity. This story exposes shamans as cruel manipulators in league with corrupt officials, exploiting the simple faith of the people. Taimon Bao's approach, without haste or harshness, aimed to eradicate this cruelty without offending the villagers' beliefs, showing them the true nature of these shamans. His participation in the marriage ceremony with solemn dignity unmasked the shaman's arrogance and deceit. The revelation that the supernatural intervention was a scam liberated the district. Taimon Bao's efforts also included practical measures to prevent flooding, showing his wisdom and leadership. His governance of Nyep district was marked by honesty and respect for tradition, earning him a revered place in history. 12. How did the people uniformly implement the decree? Wei Yang, a prince of the state of Wei and also known as Gongzi Yang, served as the prime minister of the state of Qin, where he drafted the 7 Laws decree. Hesitant to announce it for fear of disbelief among the populace, Wei Yang devised a plan. He set up a pole that anyone could carry and announced, "Whoever carries this pole to the north side of the market will be rewarded with 10 taels of gold." The people were astonished, thinking the task easy but suspecting a trick, so none dared to try. Observing this, Wei Yang increased the reward to 50 taels of gold. A poor man, taking a chance, carried the pole to the specified location. Immediately, Wei Yang rewarded him with 50 taels of gold with no strings attached. Everyone praised, saying, "The official keeps his word." Thereupon, Wei Yang proclaimed the 7 Laws decree, and everyone meticulously followed the law. Commentary. In ancient times, the populace was often powerless under the government. The people's trust lay in the integrity of the authorities, guiding their behavior. By demonstrating a commendable act for all to see and hear, Wei Yang earned universal trust. Once the people believed, enforcing the decree became unimpeded. It is worth noting that Wei Yang utilized a trick rather than art in this context. 13. Praise and criticism are both faulty. After the 7 Changes law was announced, thousands of people deemed it inconvenient, and those people were listed to await punishment. The Crown Prince, too, complained, "This law is such a hassle." Wei Yang replied, "The reason the law is not enforced is due to violations by those in power." Wei Yang wanted to punish the Crown Prince, but since the Crown Prince was to succeed the throne, Wei Yang had to punish the prince's tutors, 2 royal princes, by tattooing their faces. From then on, everyone followed the decree. With the law enforced for 10 years, the people of Quyên lived orderly and disciplined lives. No one picked up lost items on the streets. There were no quarrels or fights in the neighborhoods, and there were no thieves in the mountains. Those who previously criticized the law for being inconvenient now praised it, to which Wei Yang said, "Praise is also the root of disruption." He then banished the families who praised or criticized to the borders. The people of Quyên remained silent. Commentary. Later politicians considered Wei Yang to be a great reformer. In the middle of the Western Han Dynasty, Wang Mang relied on Wei Yang's reforms for a comprehensive revolution, but it failed after 17 years due to the conservative scholars' agitation. Even during the times of Wang Anshi of the Song Dynasty and Kang Yuwei of the Qing Dynasty, who also attempted reforms, no one succeeded. What were the 7 changes? 1. From deep within the mountains of Bashu, Quyên moved its capital to Xianyang. 2. Establishing counties. Quyên divided the country into various regions based on the natural landscape, each becoming an administrative district led by a district magistrate who enforced the law. Those who disobeyed were executed. 3. Reclaiming land. People were required to cultivate wasteland. Compliance with measurements set by the government was mandatory. Those who deceived or disobeyed were executed. 4. Land tax reform. The stationary field system was abolished. 8 parts of land were private, and the middle part belonged to the emperor. People had to work together on the emperor's land as a form of tax, with profits measured per unit. Private land ownership was not allowed. 5. Wealth production. Men farmed and women wove. Those who produced a lot of wealth were exempt from taxes and corvée labor. Lazy individuals and those who lived off the initial investment were enslaved. Craftsmen were heavily taxed. Households with 2 or more adult males had to split up and pay a sum of money. Those who refused to split were fined double. 6. Encouraging military achievements. Anyone who beheaded an enemy was promoted 1 rank. The more contributions made, the greater the rewards, ensuring a comfortable life. Those without achievements were demoted to commoners. If a member of the royal family achieved nothing, they were also demoted. Both parties in a fight were punished, and in case of a brawl, both were executed regardless of the instigator. 7. Banning deceit. Every 5 houses formed a bayo, overseen by a bao leader. 10 houses made up a lian, managed by a lian leader. If one household committed a fault and 1 out of the 9 did not report it, then all 10 households were executed. Anyone who reported deceit was considered as having beheaded an enemy. Harboring criminals or people without identification resulted in confiscation of property and punishment based on the severity of the offense. Of course, these 7 changes were harsh, especially the 7th. Therefore, Wei Yang stated, "Praise is also the root of disruption." 14. The story of Bàng Quyin's harm. Tan and Bàng Quyên were both disciples of the sage Quyên. Whenever Bàng Quyên went into the mountains to gather firewood, Quyên would teach Tan valuable lessons, which Tan would then share in full with Quyên upon his return. However, when it was Tan's turn to gather firewood and Quyên learned something new, he would find excuses not to share these lessons with Tan. Despite this, over time, Tan proved to be more talented than Bàng Quyên. One day, when Quyên learned that the state of Wei was seeking talented individuals, he hastily asked Quyên for permission to leave. Before departing, Quyên told Tan that he must return home first to see how things were. If he attained an official position, he would inform Tan so they could serve in the government together. Tan agreed. Quyên, with his persuasive abilities, convinced the king of Wei and was appointed as the marshal. However, he did not inform Tan as promised, fearing the king might favor Tan over him due to Tan's superior skills. Magdich, a friend of Quyên who frequented their place, recognized Tan's talents and recommended him to the king of Wei. The king summoned Tan to court. Upon hearing this, Bàng Quyên feigned joy and told the king that since he and Tan were from the same master and he already held a high position, there was no higher rank to offer Tan without undermining Quyén's position. The king, persuaded by Quyên, decided to wait for an appropriate achievement before awarding Tan any position. Meanwhile, Tan, left without duties, would visit the court occasionally, and Quyên would visit him to offer consolation. One day, a merchant from the state of Qi visited Tan, delivering a letter from a distant relative, urging Tan to return to Qi, where the king was honoring talented individuals. Tan wrote back, mentioning he was about to be honored by the Wei king. The merchant left with the reply. Shortly after, the Wei king summoned Tan, accusing him of treason based on a letter suggesting Tan was conspiring with Qi against Wei. Realizing the letter had been tampered with, Tan was unable to defend himself effectively. The king ordered Tan to be executed, but Bàng Quyên intervened, suggesting crippling Tan instead of killing him. The king agreed and Tan was crippled and imprisoned. Quyên would visit him occasionally, pretending to care for him, and suggested Tan write The Art of War by Sun Tzu, a work attributed to Tan's ancestor. However, those caring for Tan, aware of Quyén's treachery, warned Tan that completing the work might lead to his death. Tan, understanding the full extent of the deception, feigned madness to survive. Commentary. From Bàng Quyén's words to the Wei king when Tan was summoned, it's clear that Quyên was dishonest. His suggestion that there was no suitable position for Tan at the moment was a blatant manipulation, leaving Tan with no opportunity to prove his worth. Quyén's actions, including the manipulation of the letter, show his true nature. His unwillingness to share his position with Tan, despite claiming to consider him a brother, reveals his deceitfulness. The fate that later befell Quyên serves as a reminder that justice eventually prevails, illustrating that those who stray from the path of righteousness often meet their downfall. 15. The bat, the flying, and the running creatures. Once upon a time, the winged creatures and the four-legged beasts waged a fierce battle that darkened the skies and the lands. After the intense confrontation, many animals perished. The defeated beasts were forced to seek peace. As an unequal treaty was being drafted, a bat flew into the midst of the winged assembly. It declared, "I belong to the winged kind, and thus I have the right to partake in the affairs of our winged kingdom." No one could refute its logic. Not long after, the treaty was broken, leading to another devastating war between the bird kingdom and the beast kingdom. This time, the beasts emerged victorious. The birds pleaded for peace, agreeing to an unfair treaty. Suddenly, a bat appeared among the beasts, stating, I am a four-legged creature, and therefore I have the right to participate in the affairs of our beast kingdom. Recognizing the bat, someone accused, "You are a treacherous creature, speaking out of both sides of your mouth. Your wings are but skin, and your legs are part of your wings. You are loyal to no kingdom." The king of the beasts then ordered the execution of the bat, branding it a political opportunist. Commentary. This ancient Chinese fable, excerpted from Initial Lessons for the Ignorant, uses the bat as a metaphor for those who lack integrity. These individuals exploit the situation, siding with the victors without contributing any effort to their country's cause. Regardless of who sacrifices, their only concern is personal gain. With their deceitful ways, they benefit from any outcome. In political terms, such individuals are referred to as opportunists, akin to the bat from the tale. 16. The demand for proportionate reciprocity. In the 8th year of King Wei of Qin's reign, 371 BC, the state of Zhao launched a massive military attack against Qi, resulting in Qi's significant defeat. King Wei sought the help of Chunyu Kun to request aid from the state of Zhao. The king entrusted Kun with 160 ounces of gold and 10 chariots as compensation for Zhao. Chunyu Kun laughed so hard that his belt broke. Feeling embarrassed, King Wei asked, "Is the gift for Zhao considered too small?" Kun replied, "I wouldn't dare say that." The king then asked, "Then why do you laugh?" Chunyu Kun explained, "This morning, as I was passing by a field, I saw an old farmer offering sacrifices to the field deity. On the altar there was a leg of pork and a small jug of wine. He prayed, 'Please bless me so that my high fields are full of millet and my low fields are full of wheat, that my crops grow and my harvest fills my home.' I couldn't help but laugh at the thought of asking for so much with just a leg of pork and a sip of wine. It's simply disproportionate." Ashamed, King Wei added another 1,000 pounds of gold, 10 pairs of jade horses, and 100 chariots to the gift. The king of Zhao accepted the gifts and sent a large army to rescue Qi. The Zhao army hadn't even arrived when the attacking forces from Zhao heard the news and retreated. Commentary. People often only consider their own benefits without thinking of others. This is selfishness. And when this selfishness grows, it turns into greed. The massive army of Qi couldn't withstand Zhao's forces. And without reinforcements, how many lives and how much property of Qi would have been lost? Yet, for such a significant war-related request, to offer so little was miserly. Chunyu Kun's laughter was justified. It's worth noting that throughout his life, Chunyu Kun, despite never seeking official positions, was often present at the courts of the states of Qi, Wei, Han, Zhao, and Yan, engaging in matters of national importance. He would only act if the gifts were appropriate. Otherwise, he would refuse. Chunyu Kun was not only a master debater, but also a deeply respected and profound thinker. 17. The art of drinking. One day, King Qi invited Zhuanju to a feast. The king inquired, "What's your tolerance for alcohol like?" Zhuan replied, "Well, it varies. I can get just as drunk on 1 pint as I can on 10. King Qi, surprised, asked, "How so?" Zhuan explained, "When sitting with royalty with a wine steward at my side and a historian lurking behind, I get nervous and 1 pint is enough to make me feel thoroughly drunk. At home, when my parents have guests, I'm there to serve and sneak sips of leftover wine, accumulating to a few pints, which is also enough to get me drunk. With old friends, we might drink 5 or 6 pints. At village gatherings where men and women sit together, toasting and gambling, where holding hands goes unnoticed and an earring might drop in front without condemnation, or a hairpin be placed too close behind, I could drink up to 8 pints and still be tipsy. On a leisurely evening, as we crowd our cups close, with boys and girls sharing a mat, the lamps extinguished, and the host seeing us off without asking me to stay, with my robe loosely tied and the aroma of perfume filling the air, my spirit feels elated and I could indeed go through 10 pints. Hence the saying, too much drink leads to chaos, too much joy turns to sorrow, and everything in excess is not good. Reflection. This passage is vivid and intricate. Only those who have indulged in drinking can truly appreciate its accuracy. Despite the centuries, the atmosphere of enthusiasm for alcohol has not changed. The life of revelry depicted by Liu Ling and Zhang Heng may be magnificent, but the flexible drinking style that adapts to the emotional rhythms like that of Mr. Zhuan takes the top prize. Indeed, one can be drunk on a pint as well as on 10. Nevertheless, the advice, excessive drinking leads to loss of heart, and extreme joy breeds sorrow, is sage. Upon hearing this from Zhuan Zhu, King Qi decided to give up drinking, which was quite the surprise. 18. The first female orator. In the early 3rd century BC, King Tuyen of Qi was infamous for his debauchery, favoring the flatterer Wang Huan, indulging in alcohol, frivolous activities, constructing the snow palace, and opening hunting gardens. Additionally, the king trusted the Takha group, which consisted of philosophers, writers, and politicians who engaged in lofty discussions with no practical implications. Despite the 76 members of Takha receiving high salaries, they contributed nothing to the administration. One day, during a grand feast with beautiful women and officials attending, a woman with a broad forehead, deep eyes, visible veins, a high nose, protruding teeth, and a long neck boldly entered the court. The gate soldiers, finding her appearance unusual, stopped her. She stated, "I come from the county of Wudiem. My name is Chung Li Xuan, nearly 40 and still unwed. Hearing of the king's feast in the Snow Palace, I've come to apply for a job cleaning the royal harem." The guards laughed and reported to King Tuyen, who allowed her entry. The officials laughed at her appearance. King Tuyen remarked, "With so many beautiful women in the palace and you so unattractive, what do you seek here? Do you possess any special talents?" Chung Li Xuan, with glaring eyes and bared teeth, responded dramatically, suggesting she could help the king recognize military threats, punish traitors, dismiss flatterers, and dismantle the feast, symbolically representing correcting the kingdom's direction. King Tuyen, outraged, questioned her audacity. Chung Li Xuan boldly declared she would list the king's faults and was ready to face death afterward. She warned of the Qin state's rising power and Qi's lack of preparedness, criticized the king's indulgence in luxury and neglect of state affairs, and condemned the influence of flatterers and the Takha group on the king, leading to the kingdom's downfall. She urged for the dismantling of the snow palace and hunting gardens to relieve the people's suffering. Shocked by her insights, King Tuyen realized his errors. He immediately ended the feast, appointed Chung Li Xuan as his chief queen, expelled Wang Huan, and disbanded the Takha group, leading to Qi's resurgence. Reflection. King Tuyen was known for his licentiousness. The poem Kung Oan Ngam Kuk reflects on hearing rumors without seeing the truth, mirroring Tuyen's reign. Despite his interest in various pleasures and disregard for the changing times, his predecessor had established a prosperous state, which prevented major decline during his rule. However, neighboring states advanced while Qi stagnated. Chung Li Xuan, blessed with wisdom from her homeland, accurately assessed the situation. Her intelligence and bold oratory overshadowed frivolous court debates and led to substantial reforms, marking her as the first female orator and a visionary political figure in Chinese history, leaving behind many legends and anecdotes. It's said that she later shed her disguise at Truongha Bridge, becoming a renowned beauty. 19. The grave consequences of lawmaking. Xiangyang initiated reforms in the state of Qin, late 4th century BC, aiming for the respect of law through harsh policies, which led to widespread resentment among the populace. Upon the death of King Xiao of Qin, the crown prince ascended to the throne as King Huiwen of Qin and sought to punish Xiangyang by stripping him of his position. Defiantly, Xiangyang returned to his fief with a procession of wealth and followers, unlawfully assuming the insignia of nobility. Angered, King Huiwen dispatched a force of 3,000 soldiers to execute him on the spot. Warned of this pursuit, Xiangyang, terrified, shed his official robes for a soldier's disguise and fled to the barrier of Hanggu. Seeking shelter at night, he was turned away by a homeowner for lacking identification, a requirement under Xiangyang's own laws. Xiangyang lamented the dire consequences of such legislative practices before escaping to the state of Wei. The king of Wei, bearing a grudge against Xiangyang for a previous deceit, sought his capture. Xiangyang eventually returned to Qin, was captured and executed. Discussion. This is a true historical account. Xiangyang was a political visionary who led Qin to power, but his overly severe laws and the policy of keeping the populace uneducated, only officials and royalty were educated, left the people devoid of moral understanding. Xiangyang ordered the execution of 600 to 700 lawbreakers daily, turning the Wei River red with blood and fueling public hatred. GOUJIAN Phi, in his Study on the Spring and Autumn and Warring States period, wrote, "Those who treat the state's affairs as their own, seeing the populace as their family, will naturally see laws obeyed as if ingrained, with deviations occasionally but still in a joyful and warm atmosphere." Xiangyang, a noble from the state of Wei serving in Qin, demonstrated love for his profession, position, and family rather than for the state of Qin. The wealth he amassed raises questions about his allegiance. Similar to Vien Gao, a former official of equal rank, Xiangyang lived off the suffering of the Qin people. True patriotism involves love for the people, not just power or status. Even after being removed from office, his arrogance was evident. History records that upon the death of certain respected officials, all of Qin mourned, with no songs of joy or the sound of daily life heard. In contrast, Xiangyang's death was celebrated with singing and dancing in the streets. Xiangyang's strict laws were such that people dared not offer shelter to a stranger without papers, stating, "Whoever shelters someone without identification will be executed." In essence, Xiangyang ultimately condemned himself, illustrating that living without virtue is akin to a slow death. 20. The mice hold a council to avoid the cat. The cat was so intimidating that it didn't need to pounce. A mere glare was enough to petrify any unfortunate mouse to death. Our cat, known for its patience in ambushing mice and its keen sense of smell, instilled fear in the mice day and night. One day, in a dire situation, the chief mouse ordered a family gathering to discuss the mouse kingdom's well-being. The Mouse King said, "That cruel cat is truly a menace to us all. It has killed so many of our kin. What plans do you have to preserve our lineage?" The mice looked at each other in fear. Suddenly, a young mouse suggested, "We could leave this place and start anew elsewhere." The Mouse King shook his head. "It's not that simple. This is our home after all. Besides, who's to say there aren't cats in other places? And is there enough food there? Is the terrain suitable?" Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Then an old mouse spoke up. "As the saying goes, a single tiger can't stand against a pack of foxes. Perhaps the larger mice, like the sewer mice and the field mice, should band together to ambush and surprise attack the cat, ensuring it dares not come near us again. The Mouse King responded, "The cat's sense of smell is too good. We can't ambush it. Plus, with its high jump, even 1,000 of us wouldn't stand a chance." At that moment, a daring mouse boldly said, "We don't need to ambush it or go far. I have a brilliant idea. Let's hang a bell around the cat's neck. When we hear the bell, we'll know the menace is near and we can hide." The mice were overjoyed at this suggestion, celebrating together. After some time, the Mouse King nodded. "It's a good plan, but who dares to bell the cat?" The mice looked at each other in terror. No one spoke up. The Mouse King sighed. "It's easy to say, but action is what's hard." Commentary. Historically, opinions on knowing and doing have varied. Some believe it's hard to know but easy to do. Others argue the opposite. Knowing is easy, doing is hard, and yet others believe knowledge and action must go hand in hand. Regardless, these are all theoretical stances. The fable presented here illustrates a difficult situation where, despite numerous strategies, none succeed until a seemingly simple idea of belling the death is proposed. Initially, it seems easy, and everyone is thrilled. Part of the excitement comes from the ingenuity of the idea, but mostly, everyone hopes someone else will undertake the dangerous task. In the end, no one dares to bell the cat. Such is life. No one bothers the standing buffalo, but many will rush to carve the fallen one. It's one thing to talk a big game, but taking action, especially when it means sitting in the shade while eating a golden bowl, is another matter entirely. 21. Rewards without effort. Around 400 BCE, Tri Ba of the state of Jin, one of the four most notorious lords of Jin at that time, wished to attack the state of Wei. To this end, he presented Wei with 400 fine horses and a pair of jade discs. The king and his subjects of Wei were overjoyed, leaping and dancing, and they threw a grand feast to celebrate. However, Wen Zi, a senior official of Wei, remarked, "Receiving rewards without contributing anything and getting gifts out of the blue should be scrutinized. These are the kinds of offerings a smaller state makes to a larger one. Yet, Tri Ba presents them to our state of Wei. Surely, there must be an ulterior motive." The king was alarmed by this insight and ordered that the border officials vigilantly guard day and night. On the Jin side, Tri Ba, planning to launch a surprise attack on Wei, noticed the careful guard of Wei's soldiers. He lamented, "Surely Wei has wise individuals," and subsequently withdrew his troops. Reflection. Although this is a matter of statecraft, it equally applies to household affairs. In daily interactions, when one party suddenly presents gifts without any prior relationship, it's only prudent to consider the abnormality of such an act. Often, the intention behind such generosity is to exploit the recipient, with giving gifts being a common strategy to ingratiate oneself, foster close ties, and eventually unveil ulterior motives. Those blinded by greed are typically the ones ensnared by such basic traps. In modern times, this practice remains a daily occurrence. 22. Trading queens for kings. Lambat Vai was a merchant from the state of Zhao, both brave and skilled in business. He learned that Di Nan, a prince from the state of Qin, was being held as a hostage in Zhao. Seeing Di Nan's unique qualities, Lang contemplated a daring trade involving kings. On one hand, Bat Vai befriended Di Nan, offering him financial support. On the other, he traveled to Qin to lobby for Di Nan's appointment as crown prince, succeeding in his efforts. Lambat Vai had a concubine named Tru Ko, of stunning beauty and 2 months pregnant. Anticipating Dinan's eventual ascension to the throne, and thus his child's future reign, Lan proposed offering his concubine to bolster Dinan's position. Lonely in Zhao, Dinan agreed. Nearly 10 months later, Triuko gave birth to a son named Qing. La Bat Vi then orchestrated the return of Dinan's family to Qin. Soon after, Dinan ascended the throne, with La Bat Vi as prime minister and Duan Qin as crown prince. The La family's wealth surpassed even the state treasury of Qin, proving the business of trading kings to be immensely lucrative. Eventually, Duan Qin took the throne, with La Bat Vi manipulating Qin's politics behind the scenes. Though officially recognized as the son of King Tan Trang and Dinan, everyone knew that Duan Qin was La Bat Vi's son, marking Lan's success in this complex maneuver. In the state of Chu, Xuan Than Quan Huang Yet, a high-ranking general, had a beloved concubine, Li Yan, from the nomadic tribes of Zhao. Li Yan, pregnant with Yet's child, conspired with her brother Li Vian to offer herself to the childless king of Chu, hoping her child might ascend the throne, much like the Lan family in Qin. Yet agreed, leading to Li Yan marrying the king of Chu and later giving birth to twins, with the elder becoming the crown prince. Yet rejoiced more than the king himself, marking his guests with jade on their shoe noses. After the king's death, the court elevated Han Li Yan's son to the throne, with her relatives governing in his stead. However, their rule was short-lived, as General Han Yan executed the entire Lai family, ending both Yet's and the Lan's bloodlines. Yet and La Bat Vi died within the same year, their schemes leading to their downfall. La Bat Vi, originally a merchant from Zhao, betrayed his homeland by aiding Qin against Zhao, making him a traitor in modern terms. Unlike the admired merchant Huyan Cao of the state of TRAN, who supported his countrymen against Qin, Lan played a more sinister game by integrating his lineage into the royal family through his concubine, leading to his son eventually ruling as the infamous Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Despite his initial success, Lan's manipulations eventually led to his disgrace and suicide, mirrored by Huang Yet's fate in Chu. Their short-term successes in trading concubines ultimately led to their family's extinction, illustrating the inevitable consequences of dishonorable actions. 23. The wisdom beyond years. At that time, La Bat Vi was serving as the prime minister of the Qin state, actively collaborating with the Yan state to launch an attack against Zhao. Yan sent its crown prince to Qin as a hostage and requested a capable general from Qin to lead its army. La Bat Vi promptly appointed General Truong Duong to assist Yan. However, the journey to Yan required passing through Zhao territory, prompting Truong Duong to fear for his life and therefore refuse the assignment. La Bat Vi personally visited Truong Duong's residence to persuade him, but to no avail, leaving in frustration. At this juncture, Cam La, a mere 12-year-old protege of La Bat Vi with a rosy complexion and crimson lips, greeted him and inquired about his troubles. An irritated La Bat Vi snapped back, questioning what a child could understand about such matters. Cam La calmly responded that, as a follower, it was his duty to share in both the joys and sorrows of his leader. La Bat Vi then explained the situation regarding the alliance and military exchanges between Qin and Yan, and Truong Duong's refusal to lead the troops due to his fear of Zhao. With a smile, Cam La remarked that it seemed like a minor issue and wondered why he wasn't informed earlier to offer advice. An enraged La Bat Vi dismissed him harshly, doubting a child's ability to influence Truong Duong's decision. Unperturbed, Cam La met with Truong Duong and cleverly convinced him by drawing parallels with historical figures who face similar dilemmas, eventually persuading him to take on the mission. Upon returning to Lambat Vai, Cam La informed him of Truong Duong's departure and proposed a bold strategy to convince the king of Zhao to cede territories to Qin, thereby altering the political landscape. La Bat Vi, recognizing Cam La's brilliance, reported to the king of Qin, who granted Cam La a significant diplomatic role. The king of Zhao, surprised to see such a young envoy, was eventually swayed by Cam La's logic, leading to a strategic victory for Qin. Reflection. In ancient times, leadership and wisdom were not confined by age. Lan Vong assisted the king of Chu at the age of 80, while the poet Wang Bo was appointed as a royal tutor at 11, only to be dismissed at 14 for his unconventional ideas. Li Bi, another young prodigy, was teaching the crown prince before reaching 11, demonstrating the close bond between teacher and student. These stories highlight the respect for intellectual and strategic talents, exemplified by Cam La's diplomatic success. Sadly, Cam La passed away at the young age of 13, but his legacy as a child prodigy lived on, showcasing the profound impact that wisdom and courage can have, regardless of age. 24. Mao Tai challenges Emperor Qin to uphold filial piety. The mother of Emperor Qin, Lady Zhao, engaged in an illicit affair with Lao Ai, resulting in 2 children. When the affair was exposed, the emperor executed Lao Ai and confined his mother to the cold palace. Witnessing this, the officials gathered to intercede on her behalf. 27 individuals were executed in this cause, their bones piling up. A man from the state of Qi, named Mao Ti, visited Xianyang, learned of Emperor Qin's actions towards his mother, and the execution of 27 people for their intercession. Motivated by a sense of righteousness, Mao Ti also sought to advise the emperor. The world respects Qin not merely for its strength, but because they see something in the great king that aligns with the common good. Tyranny, like that of Ji and Zhou, only leads to downfall. Now, if the great king seeks to conquer the 6 states with such evil, the world would rather die than follow him. I have spoken. Now act. With that, he began to disrobe, intending to leap into a pot of boiling oil. Emperor Qin stopped him, saying, "I will heed the wise man's counsel." He pardoned his mother and appointed Mao Tai as a high official. Commentary. Mao Tai was also a cunning figure, wielding his eloquence for personal gain like Zhang Yi before him. Qin was a tyrannical ruler who murdered his own brother and waged wars against 6 states. Was the state of Qi any more stable? King Tianjian of Qi was a negligent ruler, and Prime Minister Hao Shang was a traitor. Why did Mao Tai not advise his own king instead? Mao Ti's advice to Emperor Qin was merely flattery. The world respects Qin because they see something in the great king that aligns with the common good. The great king seeks to conquer the 6 states. He only mentioned the conquest of other states, not the issue of Emperor Qin's mother. Who truly respected Qin? Only King Tianjian of Qi, who flattered Qin. Whenever Qin won a battle, Tianjian would send envoys to Xianyang to congratulate him. When Qi was defeated, Tianjian was imprisoned in Gongdi, starved to death after eating cedar leaves and bark. How could he not feel disgrace? Mao Ti, Li Si, Zhang Yi, and Wei Liao, from the state of Wei, were all traitors seeking glory, leaving them cursed for eternity. 25. The bond between 2 countrymen. Pham Ba was a fisherman living along the eastern sea. Ba was skilled in net fishing. During calm seasons, he would dry a lot of shrimp and fish or make fish sauce to store. When the sea was rough, Ba would take his fish sauce to the countryside to sell or trade for millet. One day, while selling his fish sauce, he entered a farmer's house. The farmer had an unattractive and deformed face, but he appeared honest and straightforward. Ba learned that the man was Dien Thao. Thao's house was spacious and well-maintained. Ba explained, "I've come from the sea to sell this fish sauce, traveling 50 to 70 miles. I trade it for millet. I use my own cart for transport, as hiring one would not be profitable. Could I store my surplus millet here and collect it on my next trip?" Thao agreed happily, noting that good business requires such careful planning. When Ba returned home, the winter brought storms and flooding that made the roads impassable, even washing away some homes. Ba worried about his stored grain. Once the waters receded, Ba, hauling his cart of fish and sauce, went back to the countryside and visited Thao's house. After greetings, Ba inquired about the damages from the recent floods and asked to collect his stored grain. Thao instructed his servants to bring out Ba's grain, which was complete and dry, indicating Thao's integrity. Not only had Thao not taken any grain for himself, but he had also dried it during the flood season. Over the years, although Pam Ba and Dien Thao never formally acknowledged their friendship, their bond grew stronger than many others. War eventually separated them with no contact for years. After the war, they joyously reunited and continued their friendship. When Thao passed away, Ba mourned deeply, and he too passed away not long after. Their children and later their grandchildren maintained the friendship, inheriting a legacy of deep and enduring friendship across generations. Commentary. At first glance, this story might seem unremarkable, but it actually carries a profound lesson for everyday life. The ancients said, "The friendship of gentlemen is like water," meaning it's understated yet significant. Often, initial enthusiasm is a precursor to eventual dissolution. Too much love leads to hurt. These countrymen, despite their lack of education, wealth, or eloquence, lived with genuine integrity. Their descendants inherited this quality, treating others with the same heartfelt sincerity. How many people can truly claim to live this way? 26. The defense of Tran. Tran, a persuasive orator along with Truong Ongyi, revered King Qin Huiwen. Both were highly esteemed by the king and competed for his favor. Truong Ongyi slandered Tran to the king, saying, "Chan values personal interests over those of Qin and Chu, now at war. Chu no longer allies with Qin but with Chan, indicating Chan's self-interest over the king's. Moreover, Chan wishes to defect to Chu. Why does the king not permit this?" The king confronted Chan. "I've heard you intend to defect to Chu. Is this true?" Chan affirmed. The king remarked, "Truong Ngyi's words are indeed accurate." Chan responded, "Not only does Ngyi know, but all who wish to challenge my ideas are aware." Just as Guzi remains loyal to the king despite offers from others, and Zheng Shen is so virtuous that many would adopt him, a servant not sent away for being sold is considered good, and a woman remarried within her village is deemed capable. If I were disloyal, how could Chu trust me? Being loyal yet suspected and abandoned, where else could I go if not to Chu? Following this, King Qin Huiwen treated Chan with great kindness. Commentary. Everyone knows Ngyi is a deceitful schemer. He misled King Huai of Chu by promising 600 miles of land from Shang if Chu severed ties with Qi, which was actually only 6 miles. Ngyi then fled to serve as prime minister in Wei, advising the Qin king to attack Wei. Tran, though a notable orator, possessed admirable qualities. This account of Tran demonstrates his persuasive skill, with each example reflecting back on him in a vaguely analogous manner. Often, People are invited to serve a state more for their talents than their loyalty, which is harder to assess. Zhang Shen, a prominent disciple of Confucius known for his filial piety, would unlikely accept anyone else as foster parents, illustrating the wishful thinking, "If only our children could be like Zhang Shen." The last two cases are similar. Indeed, Chan disliked the Qin officials, unlike Truong Ungi, unable to cooperate despite their desire to be loyal to King Qin Huiwen, one of the most enlightened rulers of his time. 27. The Lord of Pingyuan and the Lame Man. A lady from the household of the Lord of Pingyuan gazed down from an upper floor and spotted a lame man hobbling to draw water from a well. She laughed mockingly, her amusement tinged with scorn. The following day, the lame man visited the Lord of Pingyuan's residence and said, "I've heard you honor men of talent. Hence, scholars from all over do not hesitate to travel thousands of miles to see you. Unfortunately, I am physically disabled, yet your lady on the balcony mocked me. I'm here to ask for the head of that lady who laughed at me yesterday." The Lord of Pingyuan laughed in response. "Very well." As the man left, the Lord mused aloud, "Does the cripple think he can demand the life of my beautiful lady over such a trivial matter?" and thought no more of it. Over a year passed, and the Lord of Pingyuan noticed that more than half of his guests had left. Surprised, he exclaimed, "I have not treated anyone disrespectfully. Why have so many departed?" Someone explained, "You didn't execute the disrespectful lady, showing you value beauty over virtue, so they left." Shocked, the Lord beheaded the lady and took her head to the lame man's house as an apology. Gradually, the scholars returned. Reflection: upon closer examination, no one in this tale is completely right. 1. The beautiful lady, likely accustomed to luxury and interacting only with the healthy and handsome, she lacked worldly experiences. Seeing a disabled person, she didn't empathize but instead laughed and mocked. Her actions were naive rather than malicious. 2. The lame man. Aware of his own limitations, he should have also understood others. While it's admirable to remain unfazed when mocked, succumbing to resentment and silence is less so. His request for the lady's head wasn't a quest for justice, but personal revenge, marking him as petty. 3. The Lord of Pingyuan. Without notable achievements, he relied on his royal status to seek fame. Hosting thousands at his expense was a drain on the public. His political maneuverings were lackluster, and when his kingdom faced siege, his priorities were misplaced. His eventual decision to execute the lady was an overreaction, driven by external pressures rather than justice. 4. The guests. Claiming to be scholars, they were essentially freeloaders. Critical of the Lord's actions only in hindsight, their departure and eventual return upon the lady's execution highlighted their opportunistic nature rather than principled stance. This story critiques the complexities of human behavior, revealing how misjudgments and societal pressures can lead to tragic outcomes, urging a reflection on true values and ethics. 28. A scholar hidden like a whetstone in a pouch. The situation in Hamdan was extremely tense. The king of Zhao sent Pingyuan to Chu to discuss a joint attack against Qin. Out of his 3,000 followers, Pingyuan could only find 19 people capable of proper speech, which was insufficient for forming an embassy. Distressed by this, a follower named Mao Tawai stepped forward and said, "For this mission, we need at least 20 people, but we only have 19. Please include me to complete the number." Noting Mao Tawai's small stature and uneven walk, Pingyuan asked, "How long have you served Master Sheng?" 3 years, was the reply. A true scholar is like a whetstone hidden in a pouch. Its sharpness will eventually show. You've been here 3 years, and I've yet to hear of your reputation, so you should stay behind." Mao Toei laughed. "Only today have I become the whetstone in the pouch. Had I been placed in the pouch earlier, my sharpness would have been evident by now, not just the tip." Pingyuan then allowed Mao Toei to accompany them. Upon reaching Chu, Pingyuan and the king of Chu discussed the alliance, with the 20 followers standing below the steps. The discussion seemed endless from sunrise to sunset. Mao Toei approached Pingyuan, questioning why a matter that could be resolved in a few words was still unresolved after half a day. The king of Chu, curious about Mao Toei, was informed he was just a follower. Offended by Mao Toei's interruption, the king ordered him to leave. Mao Toei, drawing closer with a drawn sword, warned the king not to underestimate him based on the number of people present, suggesting that even with Chu's vast resources, true power lay not in numbers but in moral authority and respect. He cited historical examples of leaders who commanded great influence with minimal territory, contrasting them with the current king of Chu's failure to acknowledge his country's humiliation. Mao Toei's words convinced the king to agree to the alliance. After the agreement, Mao Toei and the others prepared to return. Mao Toei criticized the others for their lack of effectiveness, emphasizing that success comes from individuals, not reliance on others. Upon returning to Zhao, Pingyuan expressed regret for underestimating Mao Toei, acknowledging that Mao Toei's eloquence was more powerful than millions of soldiers. Mao Toei was henceforth treated as a distinguished guest. Commentary. The saying, "A true scholar is like a whetstone hidden in a pouch, its sharpness will eventually show," exemplifies the potential of overlooked individuals. However, Pingyuan of Zhao underestimated Mao Toei, lacking the discernment of leaders like Man Thuong Quan. Mao Toei's direct and precise words to the king of Chu, coupled with his assertive actions, spoke volumes. Yet the alliance with Chu proved fruitless. Despite mobilizing a large army under General Huang Yet, the delay in action allowed Wei Wuji to defeat Qin at Hamdan before Chu could contribute. Mao Toei's talent was undeniable, but his service did not fulfill his expectations. 29. Li Tu and the Rat. Li Tu was from the land of Shangtai in the state of So. In his youth, he was a minor official in a district where he observed a rat in the outhouse, feasting on filth and constantly in fear of humans or pets. However, upon entering a granary, he saw a rat there, gorging on grain under the protection of a large house, without a worry in the world. Li Tu lamented, "Whether one is talented or mediocre is much like that rat, ultimately dependent on their circumstances. Isn't it peculiar?" Commentary. Li Tu was talented but lacked virtue. He shared many similarities with Shang Yang, both originating from the legalist school, both devoid of virtue and bloodthirsty. Ultimately, both were executed by their respective dynasties. Li Tu compared people to rats. A rat in a cramped, dirty outhouse is timid and fearful, scared of humans and pets alike. Similarly, when people are poor and suffering, they live in constant fear of harm from others or exposure of their deeds. A rat in a granary, well-fed and with plenty of hiding spots, doesn't bother to guard against humans or pets, much like how a person in a position of luxury, supported by factions and allies, can move freely without fear. Though Li Tu's observations were accurate, they were superficial, as rats are not humans. Humans are governed by laws and civilization. Li Tu's journey from pessimism to extreme optimism stripped away his humanity, disregarding moral principles, leading his mother to warn and discipline him from youth until he became prime minister. Li Tu, from the state of So, sought refuge in Handan, worshipping Lao Ai, who, despite his talents, was unfortunate. Later serving Emperor Qin Shi Huang, he influenced the emperor to burn books and bury Confucian scholars alive, allying with the eunuch Zhao Gao to force Crown Prince Fusu, a paragon of filial piety, into suicide. Li Tu's cruelty led his mother to abandon their home for the mountains, knowing that Li Tu would eventually lead to their family's ruin, a prediction that was ultimately confirmed. 30. A remedy for skin eroded by water. In the state of Song, someone concocted a remedy for a condition where water exposure causes the skin on one's hands to crack and chafe. However, this individual, a weaver by trade, found no personal benefit from this concoction. A traveler, learning of this, offered to buy the remedy for 100 taels of gold. The weaver sold this miraculous remedy to the traveler. This traveler then persuaded King Wu of the Ngo during a time when Viet was waging war against Ngo in the winter. King Wu appointed him as a military physician. He used the remedy to treat the hands and feet of Ngo's soldiers, thereby enabling them to wield their weapons more effectively. After a naval battle, the Viet forces were greatly defeated. For his services, King Wu awarded the physician with lands and a generous reward. Commentary. This story, critiqued by Zhuangzi, illustrates that the same hand remedy led to great wealth and status for one person, while another remained stuck in their weaving trade. It poses the question of whether the difference lies in the application. It's a reflection on how individuals may excel in one area but face limitations elsewhere. For example, the individual from Song lacked the means to cross into Ngo, and even if he had, it's uncertain whether he would have been recommended to King Wu or deemed significant. This isn't to say that Song was a state at peace, nor that its soldiers did not suffer from similar ailments. The point of the tale is to critique the short-sightedness of those from Song, only seeing immediate benefits without considering future consequences. For instance, if Ngo used the remedy against Song, wouldn't it ultimately harm their own state? This story is akin to another where King Huai of Wei gave Huizi a gourd, which was too large to use as a container for liquids. Huizi, not knowing what to do with it, attempted to use it as a bowl for rice or porridge, but found it impractically large and ultimately destroyed it. Zhuangzi used this story to criticize Huizi's narrow-mindedness, asking why he didn't consider using the gourd as a flotation device to cross rivers, highlighting his limited perspective. 31. The extraordinary power of faith. Pham Tu Hoa was known for his fondness for recruiting brave warriors. He wielded significant influence in Tan, possessing more prestige than the 3 leading officials at court without holding any official title himself. His reputation enabled him to perform feats such as turning the rich into poor or the poor into rich. He could save the condemned from death or condemn the innocent. Among those drawn to him was an elderly man named Thuong Cao Kai, the poorest in his society, who, upon hearing of Pham Tu Hoa's power, set out to find him. Despite the disdain shown by Pham's followers towards Thuong's ragged appearance, he remained undeterred. They challenged Thuong to jump from a high platform, promising him gold if he succeeded, and he did so effortlessly, landing as gently as a falling leaf. Similarly, when tasked with retrieving pearls from a whirlpool, Thuong emerged victorious, holding a pearl to everyone's amazement, including Pham Tu Hoa's. Following these feats, Thuong was elevated to a guest of honor. When a fire threatened Pham's wealth, Thuong bravely retrieved valuable items from the flames, unscathed. This act of bravery led to the followers deeply respecting Thuong, who humbly claimed no special skills but attributed his success to his firm belief in Pham Tu Hoa's abilities to alter fortune and fate. This story reached Confucius, who remarked that true faith could influence all things, animate and inanimate, and that one should remember the power of sincere belief. Commentary. This story highlights the philosophical and somewhat mystical nature of faith, demonstrating its tangible effects. While it appears supernatural, such phenomena are not unheard of in Western cultures, which echo the sentiment that where there's a will, there's a way. Faith and hope are integral, akin to a spiritual force inseparable from the body. The Bible mentions that faith as small as a mustard seed can move mountains, suggesting that mesmerism stems from faith, bridging science and spirituality. The historical records of Sima Qian recount Li Guang's experience, illustrating how strong belief can manifest physical power, whereas doubt can weaken it. Through Thuong Cao Kai's unwavering faith, he faced water and fire without fear, viewing them as mere air, for the prospect of being saved by Pham Tu Hoa outweighed the fear of death. This story serves as a testament to the rarity and power of absolute and fervent belief in proving or disproving its truth. 32. The Useless Tree. A carpenter named Thash was passing through the Cuc Vien region of Qi when he encountered a massive tree standing before the local earth deity's shrine. Its shade was vast enough to cover 1,000 cattle, towering to the mountain's peak. Its young branches were suitable for crafting into boats, its girth so wide it took 100 embraces to encircle, attracting crowds as if it were a market. Yet Thash continued on his way without a second glance. His disciples, after a moment of boredom, followed suit. One of them asked, "Since I've started carrying an axe and following you, I've never seen a tree so large and beautiful. Why did you not spare it a look?" The carpenter replied, "Enough. That tree is useless. I'm well aware of it. Use it for a boat and it'll sink. As a coffin, it rots quickly. As tools, they break easily. As doors, it oozes a sticky resin. As beams, it's prone to termites. That's why it has grown so tall and lived so long." A student inquired, "But why does it grow at a worship site?" The carpenter answered, "The tree merely positions itself in a place of worship to prevent the ignorant from cursing it as useless. Had it not been for the shrine, it would have been destroyed by those seeking harm. Its method of preservation is no different from that of humans. Using this as a lesson in life, the difference is probably significant." Commentary. This passage intends to highlight the difference between what is useful and what is deemed useless. Not everything that appears useless is truly without value. There can be significant utility within the seemingly useless. Zhuangzi stated, "Trees like apples, pears, oranges, tangerines, and grapefruits, once their fruits ripen, are all picked until they wither. This is the talent that torments them throughout their lives, not allowing them to live to old age, leading to premature death. I have no use, and thus I live long." Reflecting on the statement, the tree simply places itself in a place of worship to avoid the ignorant scorn. The author subtly suggests that the inept, despite their background, push their way into revered places to deceive the masses, akin to historical figures who were criticized for their lack of merit. The author differentiates 3 types of useless trees. Those in the wild live long, a longevity valuable for its harmony with nature. Those near villages are disturbed by humans, cut down to improve the landscape. And those in shrines, benefiting from superstitious reverence to avoid being felled, live a borrowed existence, catering to the inept clinging to them. Ultimately, the message converges on the idea that seeking fame and profit is futile. For a healthy life, one must find peace and their rightful place in the world, thereby living long without dishonor. 33. Lesson from a fable. Contrary to nature. In the southern seas there lived a king named Thuk and in the northern seas a king named Hot. These two monarchs often met on the land of King Chaos, who hosted them with great kindness. Thus, Thuk and Hot decided to find a way to repay King Chaos's generosity. People say that humans have 7 orifices: 2 eyes for seeing, 2 ears for hearing, 2 nostrils for breathing, and 1 mouth for eating. Yet, King Chaos had none. They thought it would be good to create orifices for him. Each day they held down King Chaos and drilled a hole to form an orifice. By the 7th day, King Chaos was dead. Reflection. This fable carries a somber lesson. The kings of the South and North Seas had good intentions, but misplaced kindness can be harmful. A creature is adapted to its environment. Humans have 7 orifices on their head. Sealing them would lead to immediate death. The case of King Chaos was the opposite. Furthermore, according to Taoist philosophy, chaos represents the primordial era before the separation of heaven and earth, when everything was in a state of disorder. The One then returned to the great ultimate. If there were a King Chaos, he naturally had no orifices. When the story introduces the kings of the North and South, symbolizing the separation of heaven and earth, King Chaos was no longer relevant. Whether or not orifices were drilled, King Chaos was destined to depart. 34. The eagle threatens the dove. In the state of Wei, Huizi held the prestigious title of Prime Minister. When Zhuangzi expressed his desire to visit, rumors quickly spread to Huizi, suggesting Zhuangzi was coming with the intention of usurping his position. Alarmed, Huizi ordered a thorough search throughout the city for 3 days and nights. Upon arrival, Zhuangzi addressed Huizi. "Have you heard of the southern petrel? It flies from the southern to the northern sea, never resting on millet stalks, never eating purified fruit, nor drinking from sweet springs." At this moment, an osprey washing a rat carcass glanced up to see the petrel flying overhead and screeched in anger, fearing it would lose its prey. Are you using your position as Prime Minister of Wei to screech at me? Commentary. The authenticity of this story is uncertain, as it isn't documented in official histories. Zhuangzi's writings, rich in allegory and filled with imaginary tales, make it hard to distinguish fact from fiction. They include tales of villages warring atop snails, a giant ping bird soaring 90,000 miles high, and a fish, Quyên, as vast as the sea itself. The southern petrel represents Zhuangzi himself, with the southern and northern seas symbolizing the states of Song and Wei respectively. The osprey represents King Hui, and the old rat symbolizes the role of prime minister. Through these allegories, Zhuangzi critiques the political figures of his time, equating their squabbles over titles to petty haggling in the marketplace. His contemporaries in the states of Wei, Qi, Yan, and others, such as Ton Tan, Bàng Quyên, Dian Qi, and Trao Qi, might be implicated in this satire. Zhuangzi could be using his story to mock the politicians of his era, possibly leaving behind a cryptic smile imbued with deep, humorous sarcasm for future generations to ponder. 35. Emperor Qin Shi Huang's quest for the elixir of life. In 221 BCE, the Qin dynasty under Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, embarked on grand projects like the construction of the Yipeng Palace and his mausoleum, which were extravagantly expensive. During a court session, a renowned magician named Xu Fu stepped forward and claimed that immortals who could enter fire without burning and traverse air like birds existed. These immortals supposedly possessed elixirs that could grant eternal life. Delighted by this, Qin Shi Huang proclaimed himself a true immortal and asked if anyone would seek this elixir of immortality on his behalf. A courtier named Zhang Wuyan recommended his friend Xu Fu, who was familiar with the mythical islands where these immortals resided. Xu Fu described these islands, promising to find the elixir if provided with a large expedition. Qin Shi Huang eagerly agreed, outfitting a grand fleet. However, there was no word from Xu Fu after many months. Commentary. Qin Shi Huang is remembered as one of the most tyrannical rulers in human history, but also as a remarkable emperor of China. After unifying China, he did not distribute fiefdoms. Like many rulers, he aspired for longevity and placed great faith in alchemists, whose practices often involved mercury, leading to adverse effects rather than prolonged life. The quest for immortality is a timeless human dream, yet life's extension cannot halt death. All physical forms undergo change. Qin Shi Huang's belief in the possibility of finding an elixir was delusional. The mission led by Xu Fu, which included hundreds of men and women along with craftsmen, might have been a long-term settlement plan, potentially leading to the peopling of islands in the East China Sea like Japan. These places could have become idyllic retreats, far from the chaos of war where these people could start anew. This endeavor symbolizes the true essence of the quest for immortality, not through an elixir, but through the legacy of human survival and community building. Therein lies the real, true immortal. 36. The Omen of Qin's Fall and the Prophecy of Hu. As the days turned into months, Chu Fuk had been gone for far too long, a whole year without any news. Emperor Qin, burning with impatience, summoned Liu An and commanded, "You once boasted to me about knowing the true immortals. You and Zhang Weike recommended Chu Fuk for the quest. There's been no word from him since he left. You must find him, or if that fails, you must find the immortal. If not, do not show your face to me again." Liu An, pale as a ghost, accepted the command and set out. Amidst the vastness of the world, he had no idea where to find Chu Fuk. One day in the land of Taihua, he came across a man of odd appearance sitting on a rock. Moved, Liu An approached and bowed in greeting. The strange man asked, "What brings you here?" Liu An replied, "By the order of Emperor Qin, I am searching for the elixir of eternal life. I humbly ask for your guidance, sir." The man laughed heartily and said, "Emperor Qin is a tyrant and yet wishes to live forever. The fate of life and death is in heaven's hands. How can Emperor Qin harbor such arrogant desires? There's no such thing as an elixir of immortality." Liu An pleaded, "I am but a mortal, ignorant and unenlightened. Please, sir, if there's any way you could aid me." The man thought for a moment and said, "I will give you this." He then went into a cave, returned with a book and handed it to Liu An, saying, "Give this book to Emperor Qin. It speaks of the principles of life and extinction." Upon inspection, the book was titled, "The Secret Manual of Heaven." Liu An wanted to ask more, but the man had entered a deep meditative state. Liu An presented the book to Emperor Qin and recounted everything. The emperor, unable to understand the cryptic text, ordered Prime Minister Li Si to read it. Li Si read and interpreted for the emperor, explaining the mystical and complex ideas about the transformations of the universe. Additionally, it contained the phrase, "the fall of Qin, caused by Hu." Emperor Qin was shocked and said, "According to the book, the Hu will invade and conquer our land." Fearful, Emperor Qin sent General Meng Tian with 300,000 troops to fight the Xiongnu and also conscripted 800,000 people to build the Great Wall. Reflection. Of course, like birds and fish disappearing into the sky and sea, Chu Fuk and the team in search of the elixir of life never returned. Emperor Qin ordered Liu An to find Chu Fuk, and if not, to find the immortal. Oh, if only immortals truly existed, would they bother with a cruel emperor like Qin? Fortunately, Liu An met an eccentric who gave him a secret manual containing the ominous prophecy, the fall of Qin, caused by who? These 5 words drove Emperor Qin to construct the Great Wall. This wall, originally built during the Warring States period by the states of Yan and Zhao, running from Gansu to Liaoning, over 4,000 kilometers long, 15 to 30 meters high, and 12 to 20 meters wide, was not solely the work of Emperor Qin. Later, the Jin, Northern Wei, Tang, and Ming dynasties all made additions. Hundreds of thousands died building the Great Wall. Those 5 words significantly altered the political landscape of the Qin dynasty. The failure to find the elixir of immortality gave Li Si a reason to denigrate Confucianism, leaving no scholars to present their work. As a result, Emperor Qin ordered all books from the past to the present to be burned, except for texts on medicine, agriculture, and divination, and prohibited new writings. Only 70 physicians in Qin were allowed to write. Violators faced death by suicide. Li Si also reported to Emperor Qin, leading to the live burial of over 460 Confucian scholars suspected of seeking the elixir of life, defaming the regime, and inciting rebellion among the people. The phrase, "the fall of Qin," caused by who, led to nearly a decade-long war between Qin and the Hu, with bones scattered across valleys and beneath the trenches of the Great Wall. But the misinterpretation of the fall of Qin, caused by who by Li Si, a bloodthirsty manipulator using war for personal gain, raises questions. How could the Hu, with a small population and limited civilization, conquer Qin, a vast empire stretching from Vietnam in the south to Mongolia in the north and from Tibet? 37. Zhang Liang, the assassin of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Zhang Liang, born in the Han state with the courtesy name Zifang, hailed from a lineage of distinguished generals spanning 5 generations. Following the conquest of Han, Zhang, burning with vengeance, left his homeland and allied with the intellectuals of the realm. Seeking a warrior, Zhang traveled east to meet with the Lord of Shanghai, who introduced him to a valiant fighter named Liang Haibian. Sharing their ambitions, Zhang expressed his loathing for Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the tyrannical ruler whose actions brought misery to countless families and had obliterated Zhang's nation. He proposed that assassinating the despot would immortalize the warrior in history. Liang Haibian agreed. Zhang Liang scouted ahead and learned of the emperor's travel plans through the sandy expanses of Baclang, subsequently informing Liang Haibian. Waiting in ambush, Haibian clutched a massive mace, nearly 100 pounds in weight, as the royal carriage approached. His strike shattered the carriage, but Emperor Qin was not inside. The guards apprehended Liang Haibian. Upon interrogation by the emperor, Haibian cursed him before committing suicide by smashing his head against a wall. The emperor ordered a stringent search for the mastermind, forcing Zhang Liang to flee to Xiabi. Reflection. In history, various individuals sought to assassinate Emperor Qin for different reasons. Prince Dan of Yan commissioned Jing Ke to kill the emperor to prevent the annexation of his state, though Jing's lack of martial prowess led to failure. Following Jing, GOUJIAN, a wandering musician, attempted to strike the emperor with a lead-filled flute, but missed due to his self-inflicted blindness, a sacrifice to gain proximity to the emperor. Now it was Zhang Liang's turn, driven by a desire to avenge Han. While Prince Dan and Zhang Liang shared the goal of killing the emperor, their motivations diverged. Dan aimed to eliminate a tyrant, thus averting disaster for the realm and stalling Qin's invasion of Yan, a noble intent. After Qin's unification, the Han King's submission to Qin was seen as a historical disgrace. Zhang Liang's claim to Liang Hai Bian that avenging Han would earn eternal glory seemed grandiose but was essentially hollow rhetoric. Qin was already the enemy of all states. This situation reflected mutual assistance for fame rather than genuine allegiance. Despite Zhang Liang's noble portrayal, he viewed the world as a means to an end. His espionage failed to acknowledge Emperor Qin's awareness of assassination threats and underestimated the emperor's cunning. Nevertheless, Zhang Liang's attempt on Qin Shi Huang's life resonated throughout history, demonstrating his indomitable spirit. 38. Humanity or inhumanity. In Hamdan, the capital of the Zhao state, there was a tradition among the people. On the first day of each year, they would bring Bangku birds to sell to Zhao Jianzi. Zhao Jianzi would joyfully reward them with a great deal of money. Someone asked Jianzi, "Why do you buy Bangku birds?" Jianzi replied, "On the first day of the year, I like to release them to demonstrate my benevolence." The person then said, "People know you like to release birds, so they compete to catch them. Consequently, many Bangku birds die on that day. If you truly want the birds to live, why not advise everyone not to catch them? Catching them only to release them seems like a benevolence that cannot compensate for the act's cruelty." Zhao Jianzi praised the comment, saying, "You are absolutely right." From then on, he no longer purchased birds on the first day of the year. Commentary. Zhao Jianzi lived at the beginning of the Warring States period, mid-5th century BCE, a time before Buddhism had spread to China, so the practice of releasing animals was likely influenced by Taoism. The reason for such release ceremonies was respect for the lives of animals. All beings have an equal right to live. But why only release Bangku birds? Ideally, Jianzi should have released all types of birds. Hunting birds for food was a livelihood in ancient times, so it was difficult to prohibit entirely. Perhaps a certain philosophy could be taught to explain that gentle and harmless animals like birds, rabbits, deer, turtles, etc., should not be killed to attain virtue. In ancient times, King Yao would pray before hunting, "May those with wings fly high, those with legs run fast and avoid my net." This tradition was common in the era of the Shang dynasty, hence the idiom, "to open the nets of Shang," to release for virtue. Setting the release on the first day of the year clearly harms the birds. If one truly had compassion, one wouldn't just buy and release based on what they encounter. There wouldn't always be the funds for such actions, nor could one symbolically purchase and release to set an example for others to follow. The act of releasing birds is kind, but finding a way to prevent their capture in the first place is a true act of benevolence. Today, release ceremonies often occur on significant Buddhist days when the sale and price of birds and animals are high, leading to many deaths. The practice of releasing is a noble tradition that helps lessen cruelty. Yet the hunting and selling of animals for food or release continues. Finding a perfect solution is challenging. Ultimately, it depends on the circumstances and connections of all beings. 39. Truong Luong meets Huan Thach Kong. One day, Truong Luong was feeling downcast and decided to take a stroll to lighten his mood. During his walk, he encountered an elderly man who accidentally dropped his shoe into the water while crossing a bridge. The old man called out to Luong, asking him to retrieve the shoe for him. Initially, Luong wanted to refuse, but upon seeing the man's advanced age, he swallowed his irritation, went down to the water and brought the shoe back. The elderly man then asked Luong to put the shoe on his foot for him. Since Luong had already picked up the shoe, he complied and knelt down to help the man put it on. However, the man dropped his shoe again a few steps later. This happened 3 times, with Luong picking up and helping the man with his shoe each time before the elderly man finally walked away. Luong watched him leave in bewilderment. After walking about a mile, the elderly man turned back to see Luong still standing there. He remarked, "This young man is teachable," and then told Luong to meet him at the same place in 5 days, early in the morning. Luong, puzzled but intrigued, agreed. When the appointed day arrived, Luong went to the meeting spot and found the old man already waiting. The man scolded him for being late, even though he was meeting an elderly person, and instructed him to meet again in 5 days, even earlier. On the next meeting, despite Luong's efforts to arrive at the crack of dawn, the elderly man scolded him again for being late and told him to come earlier next time. On the final meeting, Luong arrived before midnight and waited. The elderly man showed up after a while and handed Luong a book, saying, "This is the Tai Gong military tactics. Mastering this book will make you a teacher of kings." He then told Luong that in 13 years he would find a golden rock at the base of Mount Kok north of the Tay River, and that he, the old man, would be there. Reflecting on this story, Truong Luong's patience is commendable. However, his patience was not without calculation. The historian Sima Qian noted that Luong initially considered rebuking the rude old man but decided against it upon sensing the man's wisdom and dignity. Luong's willingness to pick up and put on the man's shoes 3 times was driven by the hope of learning something valuable, whether it be a secret manuscript, a piece of confidential news, or even a treasure. Perhaps it was something Luong read in the old man's demeanor that made him persist through the disagreeable task 3 times. This act was not mere patience but a desire for gain, considered even more disgraceful than Han Xin's notorious humility. While Luong is remembered for his wisdom and Han Xin for his cowardice, this is the prerogative of history. Han Xin helped establish a dynasty that lasted 400 years, while Liu Bàng and his wife were known for their cruelty, often killing those who had rendered great services. Unlike Han Xin, who was killed by Liu Bàng, Luong's flattery earned him praise in the annals of Han dynasty history. Had the Han dynasty lasted only a few decades like the Qin, people might have regarded Luong as they did Li Si with similar disdain. Luong's patience in meeting the old man 3 times was essentially a means to an end. The old man, possibly a wandering knight-errant like in the tales of Duan Shu, might have been seeking to entrust Luong with avenging a personal vendetta. As for the golden rock and the meeting 13 years later, it would have been easy for someone to place an unusual golden rock at the designated spot. Whether Luong went to the location or not didn't matter. Though there was a renowned Taoist named Huang Shigong, rumors about him were widespread, but no one truly knew what he looked like. Not even the official historical records before and after the Han period mentioned his appearance. By the Tang dynasty, tales of his reappearances indicated that these stories were more fantastical than factual. Moreover, trusting Luong's cleverness was difficult. The moral of the story highlights the importance of sincerity in helping others and keeping promises. 40. The deposition and installation of Lai Tu and Triu, Chao, a strategic move. In the 37th year, 211 BC, during a tour of the eastern provinces, Emperor Qin Shi Huang, accompanied by Prime Minister Li Si, the eunuch Zhao Gao, and his son Hu Hai, along with several trusted officials, traveled along the Yangtze River to the sea. Overwhelmed by the vastness of the sea and sky, the emperor felt a profound sense of frustration, reminiscing about the unsuccessful quest for the elixir of life previously undertaken by Xu Fu. It was rumored among the people that Shu Fu's expedition was thwarted by a giant fish, interpreted as a whale shark. In response, the emperor ordered his archers to prepare for a whale shark hunt. Upon reaching Liaojiu, Qi, a whale shark appeared, and the emperor, along with his archers, successfully killed it. The royal kitchen prepared the whale shark, and everyone praised its deliciousness. As the expedition returned, the emperor fell ill, realizing his time was limited. He reflected on his harsh treatment of Crown Prince Fusu, who had advised against the killing of scholars and the burning of books. Trusting Li Si's counsel over Fusu's, the emperor had exiled Fusu to the frontier to oversee the construction of the Great Wall under General Meng Tian. Before his death, Emperor Qin Shi Huang issued an edict naming Fusu as his successor, expressing regret for his severe treatment of his son and urging his officials to support Fusu as emperor. However, after the emperor's death at Shakyu in the 38th year, 210 BC, JIAGU and Li Si concealed his death from the court, fearing their demise if Fusu ascended the throne. They falsified an edict to place Hu Hai on the throne instead. Li Si initially resisted, insisting on staying true to the emperor's last wishes, but JIAGU persuaded him through a mix of arguments and threats. They then ordered Fusu and Meng Tian to commit suicide by sending them a sealed imperial edict, effectively transferring military power to their ally, Wang Li. Meng Tian advised Fusu not to rush into suicide and to investigate the authenticity of the edict, considering JIAGU and Li Si's notorious deceitfulness. However, urged by JIAGU's nephew Zhao Chong to comply immediately, Fusu, respecting his father's supposed final wish, ingested poison. Meng Tian was imprisoned and later died by suicide. To conceal the emperor's death, his body was not immediately interred, leading to its decomposition. JIAGU purchased rotten fish to mask the odor until they reached Xianyang for the burial. Upon the return of the messengers, JIAGU and Li Si joyously announced the emperor's death and proclaimed Hu Hai as Emperor Qin Shi, beginning of 209 BC. This narrative illustrates the unpredictable nature of life and the downfall of those who misuse power. Despite Emperor Qin Shi Huang's achievements, including the whale shark's killing, symbolizing his reign's might, his demise and the subsequent manipulation by his trusted officials highlight a tragic betrayal of trust. This story, reminiscent of dramatic tales of destiny and moral downfall, showcases the emperor's reliance on unscrupulous advisors, leading to a series of calamitous events culminating in a darkly ironic end, much like the unfortunate fate of Duke Huan of Qi, another ruler betrayed by those close to him.